hello and welcome. You watching the Daily Mirror, and I'm Samia Kapoor, and I'm in conversation with Rajya Sabha MP and one of the top legal minds of the country, Mr. Kapil Sibal, here with me. So thank you so much for speaking to Mirror now and taking out time for us. Now, of course, we've been watching you, Mr. Sibal. You have been looking at all the political developments taking place in the country very, very carefully, and you take to microblogging site very often, and you put out your tweets. And I'm going to start the interview with one of the tweets that you have put out, Mr. Sibal, where you have categorically mentioned that Rahul Gandhi, sentenced for 2 years of defamation, legal processes are used far too often for political ends. Both the process and the outcome is bizarre. So do you think Rahul Gandhi's conviction in the defamation case is a legal process taking its own course? Because the government of the day definitely maintains that is not a case of judicial overreach.
It's not a case of judicial overreach. That's a matter of opinion, no? And merely because the government says so doesn't mean the government is right. Why is it not a case of judicial overreach? Consider the facts. Number one, Rahul Gandhi said that there are thieves, right, like Lalit Modi, Nirav Modi and another Modi. And he said, why is it? And if you really investigate this, you might find other Modis are also thieves. So number one, who should have complained? The person who has been defamed should have complained. Nirav Modi should have complained. Lalit Modi may have complained. Or the other Modi should have complained. None of them complained. So they're okay with it, right? Who complains? Speech is made in Karnataka. Complaint is filed in Surat strategically, right? By a person whose name ends with Modi. And the basis of the complaint is that you have actually defamed the entire Modi community. And the political slant is that Modis are OBCs. Now, Modis are not OBCs everywhere in this country, as you know. Right? Different parts of the country is Modis. In fact, some very, very privileged people. Where is that community, Modi community? Nobody knows where that community is, right? Now, the judge, the person who files the complaint, a year ago, when he goes to the judge and he says, look, call Rahul Gandhi again, I want to examine him. The judge says, nothing doing, argue your case. So instead of arguing the case, he rushes to the High Court. Strangely, the man who wants Rahul Gandhi to be convicted goes himself to the High Court, gets a stay of the proceedings. That stay continues for a year. Then recently the drama takes place and Adani's matter comes up and Rahul makes that speech. Then this very gentleman, whose name ends with Modi, goes back to the High Court, withdraws that complaint. In the meantime, the judge has changed in Surat. So before a new judge, the judge then says, I'll hear arguments. And the judge, in fact, gives him the maximum punishment of 2 years under defamation. It's happened only twice in the history of defamations in this court, in this country. One is the case of Muhammad Azam Khan, where he was not Muhammad, some other case, and then this is this case. Now, in this case, do you think that the process was fine? And do you think that the verdict was reasonable? For what? For something?
My question would be, do you think there is a need for a review? Because it was only yesterday when Mohammad Faisle, the Lakshadweep MP, case, he was reinstated back as a Lok Sabha MP, and an oral remark was also made saying that the automatic disqualification of parliamentarian upon conviction is a drastic measure and therefore courts need to be careful when it comes to sentencing lawmakers. So do you think that the rights and privileges that are enjoyed by a parliamentarian, there is an oversight?
This is an absurd law. That's why I said both the process and the law is absurd. I mean, that's why I said it's a bizarre outcome. I mean, why should a man in a defamation matter? I can understand if he's convicted for murder. I can understand for kidnapping, for very serious offenses. But for a defamation case, where in fact, if you ask me, criminal defamation should not be in the statute book at all.
Okay.
Right? You have a freedom of speech. Of course, it's subject to defamation. So you should have civil defamation, and you can impose as much penalty as you want in crores if it's a serious matter. But you can't lose your seat as a member of parliament. I mean, this is absurd.
And then he's handed an eviction notice, which is also because he's been disqualified as a parliamentarian. And the Election Commission also initially was indicating...
Politics all the way. It's nothing to do with justice. This is the sad part, and I said this in my tweet, that in fact politics more and more, and politicians in power more and more, use the processes of the law for political ends. Yes. You can see that happening in the Supreme Court every day. PILs are filed, you must have a uniform civil code, this religious practice should be changed, that religious practice should be changed. Well, you want to change practices, you want to have a code, you make a law. Nothing prevents you. Why should you want the court? Now, the hope is if the court gives a positive signal, then that will be used by the party in power to say, court has asked us to do this, so we are doing it. Nobody wants to take the opprobrium of actually doing it on their own. So, and we can see that happening. ED goes, person is detained, matter goes to court. It may be purely political, there may be no evidence, but the man remains in jail.
It's like today, Mamata Banerjee was also making a statement in a 2-day dharna that she held in Kolkata, saying that how agencies are being misused. We've been seeing it happening in West Bengal, in New Delhi, where Arvind Kejriwal makes that statement in the assembly. Abhishek Banerjee, K. Kavita also for that matter
now,
in her
yes.
case. Do you think that's
in Maharashtra, several politicians, ministers, sitting ministers.
But you know what, interestingly, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal said something yesterday in the assembly that I will draw your attention to, where he says that the agencies come and ask that either you want to join the BJP or you want to go to the jail. Do you think that this is how the Prime Minister had made a statement saying that all corrupt have come on one platform about the opposition party?
From the Prime Minister's standpoint, India's map can be divided into two. Wherever the opposition is in power or the opposition leaders in that particular state are leaders which are recognized throughout the country. All those are corrupt. All governments in opposition are corrupt. But wherever BJP is in power, they are as white as snow. So India really can be divided into, the map of India can be divided into two. That's how this government looks at India. That's how ED looks at India. They don't have any free passage in BJP-ruled states, and they have absolute access in opposition-ruled states. And they are using these agencies to, in fact, target people. So that's one part of it. The other thing that's happening is on the ground, these extreme statements are being made and this is what the Supreme Court the other day said openly. It said, if you mix religion with politics, this is what's going to happen. And so on the one hand, there is this religious agenda that is going on. On the other hand, this is this legal agenda which is mixed up with politics. So law and religion and law and politics, this is where we are. And this is why we see India where it is.
And this is a deadly mix of the two.
Toxic.
But sir, you are also a parliamentarian from the upper house, but we have been witnessing some very unruly scenes in the parliament. The budget session is underway. It is scheduled to get adjourned sine die on 6th April. But there's practically no legislative business of the house that has taken place. Now, the opposition party feels that they are not allowed to make a statement, they're not allowed to express themselves or even protest in the house. And now the treasury benches, in an unprecedented manner, are holding the legislative business of the house to ransom. So whose responsibility is then to ensure that the house functions?
Well, this is a rare occasion when the treasury benches themselves are disrupting the house. This normally never happens, right? So and the reason is very simple, which is also political. They want to disrupt the house because they don't want a debate. If they have a debate, then obviously things will be thrown up, which will embarrass them. So it's better not to have a debate. So the treasury benches themselves disrupt the house. That's also political. Now, actually, Parliament has become a dysfunctional institution, whether we like it or not. That's what we see.
The bills are being passed without discussions.
Finance bill passed without discussion. No debating. That's why I said we are still living in the colonial era. The Rajas of yesterday, right? The Rajas of today are functioning like the Rajas of yesterday, right? They are the new Mughals of this country now. They can do what they like. The Mughals used to use agencies to destroy people. We use agencies also to destroy people in a different sort of way. It's the same. And the reason why Parliament is dysfunctional is because it is a fallout of the colonial procedures. Why should the opposition not have a right under parliamentary procedures to be given 1 day or 1.5 days to discuss any issue they want to discuss? But for every issue they wish to discuss, there is a veto. that the majority in the House exercises in the Business Advisory Committee, and therefore issues are not discussed. Now, unless we change these procedures, unless we get rid of this anti-defection law, which allows elected governments to be thrown aside, especially in what has happened in Maharashtra, and of course this has happened in 7 other states.
Absolutely.
Right. Unless all that changes.
And there are elections coming up.
And unless all that changes, we are not going to have the kind of democracy that our forefathers actually gave us.
So also talking about judiciary versus the executive, we have also seen you very carefully looking at the statements of the law minister, Mr. Kiran Rijiju, and you have also tweeted a couple of times about it, saying that, you know, this is not how perhaps a few retired judges are part of anti-India gang, is what he had said. What do you make of the statements?
Do you think any law minister...
You have been a law minister yourself. That is why I'm putting this question to you, sir.
Well, I was a little more circumspect than Mr. Rijiju. Perhaps he is more enthusiastic as a law minister. Perhaps it's a political agenda, I don't know. But for any law minister to make such a statement, he has no business to continue as a law minister. What right does a law minister... After all, the names of these judges were cleared by the government of the center, right? And one of those 4 people, one of the 4 people who went and did a press conference is the one who has been given a Rajya Sabha seat, right? Is now in the Rajya Sabha. And to call them anti-national and that they will have to pay a price for it is something that such a statement has never been made by any responsible law minister in this country. And I'm sorry that we have a law minister who has the temerity and the courage to make such a statement. To say the least, it is irresponsible. But also, I think it's actionable. It's actionable because this is pure defamation. Of course, I don't want him to lose his seat.
So that's a very carefully crafted way of yours saying about the disqualification of Rahul Gandhi's seat. My question will come back to the 2024 elections are almost 13 months away from now, sir. Given the situation in the country where every single political party leader is trying to talk about that the opposition unity should be there, do you see that opposition unity?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm really at a distance. I'm not in the midst of any political party, nor a member of any political party. But what I see on the ground is a certain level of discontent. That discontent is silent because people are afraid to speak. Whether it's in the universities or it's the middle class, if the people talk privately to you, they express deep, deep concern. But they are also afraid of saying something. Now, whether that discontent brings electoral benefits to the opposition or not, I don't know. That's something only time will tell. But certainly the opposition should get together on a common platform. And I think the common platform is the fight against injustice, right? And that's why I created the platform Insaaf ke Sipahi, because that's politically agnostic.
Yes.
Any member of any political party can become a member of be an Insaaf ke Sipahi, and fight injustice at the local level wherever he or she resides. And political parties can get together because the kind of बेइंसाफी, जिस तरह से बेइंसाफी इस देश में हो रही है, तो सब इकट्ठा होकर उस बेइंसाफी के खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़ सकते हैं. और बेइंसाफी हर प्रदेश में हर किस्म की होती है, right? Different kinds of injustices, and the soldiers for injustice. All of us ultimately should become soldiers for justice. And who are we fighting? The ruling party, because they are the source of injustice. Because power ultimately breeds injustice. Power and justice are not integrally collaborative, right? Power never collaborates with justice, right? And what is happening in courts में तो केवल आजकल फैसले होते हैं. जरूरी नहीं कि इंसाफ होता है. इंसाफ की लड़ाई तो हमें जमीन पे लड़नी होगी.
Very rightly put by you, Mr. Sibal. But my few other questions to you also will remain about when we're talking about freedom of speech. Parliamentarians are not allowed to speak inside the house because the Parliament House is being adjourned, the proceedings is being adjourned. कार्रवाई स्थगित हो जाती है. जब लीडर्स अब्रॉड जाके कोई स्टेटमेंट करते हैं तब भी उनको बोला जाता है कि आप पहले पार्लियामेंट में आइए, आप माफी मांगिए. नाउ ऑफ कोर्स द जर्मन फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्रीज हैज इशूड अ स्टेटमेंट taking note of Rahul Gandhi's disqualification, and so has the US. So now the government maintains that there should be no international interference. Where does one draw the line when it comes to international matters, domestic matters, and human rights and the right to speech?
No, we as a nation have a right, as a sovereign nation, have a right to make comments on what happens outside the world.
Absolutely.
Right? What happened in Iraq, I think we made comments on it. What happened in Iraq, right? What is happening in the war in Kyiv, we made comments on that. So we have a right to make a comment. That doesn't mean that we need to be influenced by that. Right? People have a right to make. And मुझे याद है कि जब हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी नहीं थे, तो जब वे बाहर जाते थे तो क्या बोलते थे कि कैसी देखिए, लोग कहते हैं हिंदुस्तान में कि कैसी हमारी किस्मत है कि हम यहाँ पैदा हुए, यहाँ क्या हो रहा है, ऐसी ऐसी बातें प्रधानमंत्री जी भी करते थे बाहर. And nobody raised an issue about that. So why are they concerned? Because they call themselves as global leaders who influence the world.
Yes.
So if they can influence the world, they should influence the US and Germany to not say the things that they are saying, because they are global leaders. So why don't they go on that track rather than start criticizing? Nobody can interfere in our country. Nobody should be allowed to interfere in our country. We'll stand with the Prime Minister to ensure that nobody dare interfere in our country. But this is expression of an opinion. You needn't take note of it.
But you think there's also a need then to decide the liberties that a parliamentarian has to make a statement or an expression both inside the house,
Absolutely.
domestically and outside? Do you think that's a need?
In a global world, it's an interconnected world where there is internet. The place where you make the statement is wholly irrelevant. Right? Every statement you make here is seen outside. Every statement you make there is seen here.
Yes.
Right? Whatever the Prime Minister says is heard outside. So I don't think we should be worried about it. We're giving too much credence to all this.
So I'm going to draw your attention back to Rahul Gandhi's disqualification, because certain areas of technicality which you can explain our viewers best is under the Representation of People's Act, sir, does the right to disqualify lie with the Lok Sabha Secretariat, or does it lie with the President of the country?
It's like this. The law says that the day you are disqualified, your disqualification starts from the day of your conviction.
Okay.
Right? It starts from the day when Rahul Gandhi was convicted. Now remember, when you get elected, the returning officer in an election sends your papers to the election commission. He doesn't send it to the President of India. Sends your papers to the election commission. Yes. The election commission then forwards those papers to the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, depending on your membership, yes, or whether it's Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. You get a certificate from the returning officer that you have been elected. That certificate you present in the House, whether in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, and you get elected. When you are disqualified, that disqualification verdict is sent to the Election Commission. Thereafter, the Election Commission sends that to the Secretariat. The mere formality of issuing a notification, right? Ultimately, it's the Lok Sabha Secretariat or the Rajya Sabha Secretariat which issues the notification. That's a formality. Okay. But you are disqualified from the date of your conviction. So let's be clear, there's no point quibbling with all this, right? The thing to do is to tell the people that this is pure injustice. Both the process and the substantive law is unjust, and the ruling party is using it again and again. It used it in the case of
Faisal.
Not Faisal. Faisal, of course, but 2-year conviction was also given to Muhammad Azam Khan.
Yes.
For what? For a dharna. For a dharna which happened 15 years ago. They gave him a 2-year conviction and he lost his seat. I mean, this is mockery of justice. And nobody spoke at that time. So you are silent, the journalists are silent, we are silent, the people are silent, the middle class is silent. and the ED and the CBI run amok.
So I will also have to ask you about, again, when we talk about Arvind Kejriwal or Mamta Banerjee or Rahul Gandhi for that matter, all these leaders, Akhilesh Yadav or for that matter KCR, all these leaders have got
Kavita recently.
Kavita also. All these leaders have got one common agenda in place, is to defeat the BJP. Yet we don't see them standing in unison. So what exactly is the adhesive that is lacking in getting the opposition parties together? Because all opposition party individually are upset with the functioning of the government.
Samia, if I had a formula, a ready formula to tell you as to how this will happen, I would have easily said so in public. I don't have a ready formula. I think that each of us in the opposition has to realize that the time has come that unless we unite, we'll not be able to meet the challenge that faces this country. And the challenge is not just the Prime Minister and the BJP. There are far more serious challenges.
Yes.
Challenges relating to poverty, to education, to health, to the 80 crore people, 800 million people, जिनके पास जो उनका जो वेतन है, जो उनकी सैलरी है, जो उनकी जो आमदनी है, वो लगभग 5,000 रुपया
especially post COVID.
5,000 रुपया माह है. 80 करोड़ मतलब कि अगर अमेरिका की संख्या और यूरोप की संख्या को जोड़ दो तो भी 80 करोड़ नहीं बनता. इतने लोग तो हमारे यहाँ हैं who earn less than 5,000 rupees a month. So those are the real issues of our country, not the issues of convicting people for 2 years, making people lose, not allowing parliament to run, sending ED after people, sending CBI after people, opening up income tax case. This is no way.
But the Prime Minister reiterates that India prides itself in being mother of democracy.
I don't know, yes. I know. Must be very, 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 I don't know what, must be a very kind mother if she's doing all this.
Well, at that note, sir, thank you so much for speaking to Mirror Now and taking out time for us over here. And I was in conversation with Mr. Kapil Sibal, Rajya Sabha MP here at Daily Mirror. For more news and updates, keep watching Mirror Now.